All right, this session happened after one of our Thursday tournaments. We're going to sit down to 1-3 cash with $300 with some of our profit from the tournament. I don't remember which one it was, but we're sitting with profit and we're already making money. So let's go us. It's 1-3, like I said. We're going to sit with $300. There's a $50 high end every hour, and we're going to sit about eight-handed most of the night and try to run it up. So good luck us. Here we go. So, first hand of interest, we look down at King Queen of Hearts. We're sitting in +1, and the under the gun raises to 15. We call with King Queen of Hearts. We thought about a 3-bet, but landed on a call. We don't want to run into the under the gun's tight opening range. Two other players call, and we go to a flop for a $60 pot. The flop comes 9-4-7, 2 diamonds. The flop checks through. Turn comes a queen of spades. Now that upgrades us to top pair, second kicker, which is pretty good. We could still lose to under guns, ace queen. So the small blind ends up leading out for $15. The initial raiser decides to call, and we also make the call with top pair. The river comes an ace of diamonds, and we don't really like that card. Front door diamonds just got there. Under the gun might have just made a better hand with like ace king or ace 10 or ace jack. So we're looking to check this back and realize our equity. The small blind checks, the under the gun player checks, and we check happily. And we think we're about to win a pot. And the small blind crushes our dreams and shows us queen 7 of diamonds. They had us beat the whole way. Flopped a pair, turned 2 pair, and rivered a flush. Hit a flush and 2 pair kicker. Too bad we don't win that. The very next hand, we look down at pocket fours and under the gun. We decide to limp in, expecting and willing to call a raise, and it folds all the way to the small blind. The small blind makes it $6. The big blind surprisingly folds, and we flip in the call for $3 more. The flop comes ace deuce 5. The small blind checks, and sitting with a gutter and a pair, we bet $5 into a pot of about 12. The villain calls. The turn comes a 7 of clubs, and the villain checks once again, and we check back. The river comes a 3 of hearts, giving us the straight. We hit our gutter. The villain checks once again, and sitting with the straight, we want to definitely try to punish his ace X's that wanted to play slow here. So we bet $20 into a pot of about 25, and he folds. So we take the pot down.
Great.
Now we're on a bomb pot. So here at our little home game, every once in a while, everybody chips in $5, and you get 4 cards. It's pot limit Omaha. And it gets a little complicated because there's so much on the board. You get 2 boards and 4 cards in your hand. Anyways, we're just going to go straight to a turn here. We hold 8-10 of hearts and 4-9 of clubs. The top board is 7-5-6 jack with 3 clubs and 1 heart. The second board is 6-king-10-10 with 2 clubs. On the top board, we have a 9 high flush. And on the bottom board, we have trip 10s. So now sitting on the turn, everybody checks all the way to the button. And the button decides to bet pot, which is $40 at this time. It folds to us, and sitting with the flush and the trip 10s on the bottom board, it's unlikely that our opponent could have us beat on both boards, especially with all the clubs out on the second board also. So we decide to call, and everybody else folds. We go heads up to a river. On the top board, it comes a 5 of hearts. On the bottom board, it comes a queen of diamonds. Not much really changes. Some straights got there on the bottom board. Somebody could have boated up on the top board, but we're heads up. And we look at our opponent and we advise a check to try to make sure that we can get to showdown quick. So we say check. And the button obliges and checks back. and shows us the bad news. He has one of those scooping hands. All he needed was ace 10 of clubs. So he has the nut flush up top and a better trips on bottom, and he scoops the whole thing. And yeah, we didn't think that would happen, but it did. Then here's a quick little hand. We're in the big blind with 5-6 off, and we go 5 ways to a flop. We all called $6 pre-flop. The flop comes 5 of hearts, 6 of hearts, 3 of diamonds. We flop top 2 pair. And with all these opponents, we could either be really crushed with a set, but we block those, or we could be crushed with a straight, but those are unlikely, like deuce 4, 4, 7. Those are unlikely combos, but I've seen weirder. So we either want them to fold because of all the draws out there, or let us know that they have something. So we bet 30 into the pot, and everybody folds. We take it down with top 2 pair. Easy peasy. The next hand we play is the biggest pot of the night. We look down at Queen Jack of spades in middle position. The under the gun player had limped, and we raise it to $15. The button, small blind, and the under the gun limper end up making the call, so we go 4 ways to a flop. The flop comes 5 Jack King, 2 clubs. So we flop middle pair and backdoor straight draw and backdoor flush draw. But we're probably not going to bet. We're probably just want to get the showdown as cheaply as we can at this point. So we're going to do that. The small blind and under the gun player check. We check, and the button also checks. We go to a turn, which comes the queen of clubs. We don't really like this card. It gives us 2 pair, but it gives them straights and it gives them flushes. So we want to get the showdown as cheaply as possible once again. So when it checks to us again, I thought the best way of doing that was to bet 20 and try to check back the river. And we could still get called by worse, like the drawing hands, an ace X of clubs. So we bet 20. Everybody folds except for the under the gun player, who ends up making the call. The river comes a jack of diamonds, giving us what we call a vessel. Now we beat all the straights and the flushes that they could have had on the turn, and we're loving life. The villain checks, and sitting with the boat, we bet pot. We bet $100 into the pot. The villain calls very quickly. He shows us ace 10, so he was drawing to the flush, and he already had us beat, so we definitely needed that jack on the river. And we scooped the biggest pot of the night. Let's go. Oh yeah, and let me mention, that gave us the high hand for the night and paid us $50. So, cha-ching, that's going right in our pocket. A couple hands later, we are under the gun, and we limp 8-9 of spades. A few other players limp, and the big blind checks. So we're going 5 ways to a flop. The flop comes 5, 6, 7, 2 spades. So we flop everything on this board. We hit the straight, and we hit the flush draw and the straight flush draw. So that's just everything's great. We're loving life right now. And we're not very scared, and also because we want to try to go for a high hand, we don't want to scare everyone out right away. So when it checks to us, we decide to bet $5. All the players call. Now the pot's about $40, and the turn comes a 2 of spades. Now, sitting with 2 spades, it's not terrible, but we don't necessarily like it because other flushes beat us right now, but we're not going to necessarily slow down. We decide to bet 10 to make sure that worse can call, and 2 other players call. The pot's about $70 now, and the river comes a queen of hearts. So we want to make sure we can get worse to call, like a straight or 2 pair or something that's just, a 7 that gets really sticky with it. So we bet $20. The player in between folds, and the button thinks about it for a while and ends up going all in. It's $50 more to call into a $210 pot. We know that he could have us beat here with the flushes like we talked about, but our hand's just too strong that we're just going to have to put in the call. We can't fold for the price. So we put in the call, and unfortunately,
Shows a flush.
Yeah.
Not just a flush.
Oh, wow, that's
Draw all the way.
gross. See, because what happened here is he flopped it straight.
I had the one blocker. That's why
The villain does show us ace-5 of spades. About an orbit later, we look down at ace-4 of clubs in the cutoff. It folds to us, and we raise it to $10. The button, small blind, and big blind call, so we go 4 ways to a flop. The flop comes 5, 10, 10. It checks to us. Sitting with just ace high, we're beat by pocket pairs, but a lot of worse cards will call as long as they have overs to the 5. And they might have 2 big cards and not want to give it up yet, maybe backdoor straight possibilities. So we could still get called by worse. So we bet 10. Everybody calls. Now we're thinking we're probably behind at least one player because somebody's got a pocket pair at this point. The turn comes another 10. Sitting with ace high, we're still beat to any pair, so we're hoping to check it through, and our wishes get granted, and everybody checks through to the river. The river comes an ace of hearts, giving us the top boat, barring anybody having pocket aces or a 10, and we don't think anybody has pocket aces here. And the small blind checks, the big blind bets 15 into a pot of 80. So we call, and the villain shows pocket sixes, and we take the pot down and win another high hand, but it's just a 1 card, so we get 25 for that one. But it's still a high hand, and we'll take it. Here's another quick hand. We look down at ace king off in the big blind. Middle position had raised to 10 and 2 other players called. Now, yeah, if you ever wondered what to do with ace king off, you 3-bet it. You raise, you put more money in the pot when you're good, and make sure that you can just take down the dead money. We like dead money. So we go ahead and 3-bet it to 60. And everyone folds. We take in a nice little $30 payday and move on to the next hand. All right, for our last hand, we look down at queen 8 of spades in the cutoff. We limp it, and it gets to the small blind, and they raise to 15. The big blind calls, we call, and the button calls. And we go 4 ways to a flop. The flop comes 7 of diamonds, 5 of spades, 10 of spades. We flop a flush draw and a backdoor straight and 1 over, which is pretty good. We like it. The small blind c-bets for $20, and it folds to us. Now, the thing about his c-bet is he's going to have a lot of big cards, and this flop frankly connects with us a lot more than it will connect with him. We have all the sets. We have all the 2 pairs. Well, there's not very many 2 pairs. We have all the straight draws. We have all the top pairs, and he doesn't. So for those reasons, and we have equity with the flush draw, for those reasons, we raise to $60, and then the small blind ends up making the call. The turn comes a 3 of hearts, and the small blind checks. So we didn't get there, but once we start telling the story on the flop, we can't slow down here. So we go ahead and slide a nice stack of 5s and make the bet $100. The small blind folds pretty quickly, letting us know he did fold a pair, and we got the better from this hand. We end up taking the pot down for $180 and wrap up the night. So we actually ended up playing for another hour or so, maybe 2, but it worked out pretty well. We left up maybe 90 to $100, and then I ended the night up $300. So we cashed in for $300 and cashed out for $600, netting a profit of $300. And that profit does include the $75 in high hands that we took down. Overall, it was a good night. I think I played pretty well. It was nice to hit when I needed to. Off camera, I hit a set of 10s and held. And yeah, it just felt good to take some pots down and win a cash game for once in a while. Have any comments about the way I played? Let me know in the comment sections below. Next event coming up is going to be the 300 black chip bounty at Turning Stone. We make money there, so we're going to go make some more money there. Like and subscribe if you want to make sure you catch that, and we'll see you guys next time.